It's the beginning of a new age in Syria after the fall of its president Bashar al-Assad. His family's brutal 53-year regime is all that most people living there have ever known. And yet it only took a matter of days to collapse and for a seemingly untouchable dictator to be reduced to seeking asylum in Russia. It's triggered celebrations across the country, but it has also left a number of unanswered questions, the main one being what comes next. We can speak now to Mazen Gharibah, who's an academic from Homs, one of the last Syrian cities to fall to the rebels on Saturday. He is also the chief executive of the Syrian British Consortium. Thank you very much for speaking to us today, Mazen. I've heard this moment described as being equivalent to the fall of the Berlin Wall. How would you describe it?
I mean, it's the most significant historical moment in Syria's modern history, really. I would say yes. The moment where they took over Sednaya prison, the infamous slaughterhouse of the Assad regime. That for us was equivalent to the taking down the Berlin Wall. When they entered the Sednaya prison and released the Sednaya prisoners, who were some of them been there for over a decade, tortured, living in inhumane situation. When that happened, that moment was for me the moment of the fall of the Syrian regime, not just the Bashar al-Assad escaping to Russia like a coward, but breaking down the detention centers, releasing prisoners. Was what we've been fighting for years now. So everyone I know, including myself, we feel an overwhelming feeling of joy, of happiness that this actually happened. Syria is free from the brutal Assad's family who ruled the country for 54 years. We're celebrating, but we all know that underneath that absolute joy, there's a sense of uncertainty. There's a cautious optimism. As you said, there are a lot of questions about, okay, so what happened now? What should happen next? What we do, especially since now there's a different military factions and all of that. So some people are reassured of some of the good positive practices the opposition forces have been showing over the past 10 days. Some people are not that reassured, giving also the traumatic experience they lived through over the past decade. So all people I know, including myself, are hoping for a political negotiations derived from the UN Security Council Resolution 2254 to start immediately in order to give a sense of hope of a democratic transition in Syria.
Yeah, I just want to take you back before we look to the future to that moment after all these decades and living like that for all those years. The moment itself came quickly, took many people by surprise. What was your immediate reaction in London to what was happening in your home country?
So what happens is that we started calling each other. Actually, no one slept for the past 5 years. I can assure you, every Syrian I'm going to speak to hasn't slept for the past week. We started calling each other, asking each other, is this true? Am I dreaming? Is this really happening? So when Syrians decided to meet in London to demonstrate, to celebrate, we were all hugging each other. We were all crying. People I haven't met before just coming and hugging me and crying and asking me, like, is this true? Is this a dream? Is this something that it's actually happening? So there is this sense of happiness, sense of disbelief, but also at the same time, when that's kind of this feeling is as I said, it's also mixed with uncertainty, mixed with optimism, but also slight like uncertainty, ambiguity about what's going to happen. But all of the Syrians, there's like this collective decision that we should start thinking about tomorrow immediately, but we deserved a couple of days just to be happy. We deserved these short periods of just being happy, because it's been 14 years of chemical weapons, barrel bombs, forced displacement, forced disappearance, torture. I lost so many friends and so many colleagues and family members that I really wish they were here to witness that moment. And it's the military fall. It was very, very quick, but also we have to remember that for the past 14 years, the Syrian civil society, Syrian human rights activists, media activists have been working so hard for this moment. So this achievement is for all of them, all of the Syrians who really put time, effort, sweat, and blood into this moment. And now it's our responsibility for the people we lost, for my friends who gave their lives in homes and in other cities. Our responsibility now to take this forward and not to take this forward towards a democratic transition, democratic Syria, democratic elections. This is what we've been fighting for. I'm almost 40 now, and I have never witnessed any free and fair elections in my life. My father's 75 years old. He hasn't been in any sort of free elections. These people deserve to have this chance, and it's our responsibility to actually now take this forward.
And I totally understand what you're saying about the celebration and the hope versus the fear. What is it you are most concerned about, that this could lead, the vacuum could lead to a worse situation for Syria and the wider region?
My main concern is that any interim military and governance arrangement could bring stability on the short term. And that's actually needed. But my concern is if that interim arrangement is not interim, is kind of a long-term military arrangement, military council, military. I'm afraid that the stability that this arrangement could bring on the short term could turn into chaos on the long term if it was not accompanied by a UN-backed peace process according to the Security Council resolutions. Because then when these arrangements, when these coalitions, when it takes a long time, then the fractions and the rifts start to appear. And then I'm always concerned about defections, internal fightings, internal clashes amongst different groups. So that's why an interim military and governance is needed right now in order for the continuity of the government services, schools, hospitals, universities, the freedom of movement between different cities. That's absolutely necessary now. But it should be for the short term, while a peace process is reinitiated in Geneva, according to the Security Council Resolution 2254, facilitated by the UN Special Envoy Gay Pedersen, in order to start working out the roadmap for the transitional government body, for the civilian transitional government body, with full executive power, followed by a new constitution. And that constitution is absolutely necessary to give the constitutional reassurances for all Syrians, men and women, from different religions, sects, ethnicities, to have equal rights, civil, political, linguistic, social rights in the constitution, for that constitution to protect or to start the establishment of democratic institutions. And of course, eventually, that's what we've been fighting for, to have free and fair democratic elections when Syrians finally could choose their own political representatives at the parliament or the presidency. Having this political process also starting and all of that will give hope for refugees outside of the country that Syria will be safe for them to return. And that safety and voluntarily of return from Syrian refugees, specifically those who are living in Europe and elsewhere, is linked to that political arrangement, is linked to that political settlement that will be the outcome of the UN-backed peace process. When we have that arrangement, when we have that outcome, then people will feel a sense of safety and will feel that, okay, so now this is sustainable It's not just a short-term thing. It's now sustainable. So everyone will be able to go back, to feel the safety, to go back, to contribute to rebuilding our country.
If that positive outcome doesn't actually happen, what is the risk for an unstable country in an unstable region in an unstable world?
If that outcome never happened or didn't happen, then I think um, I'm trying not to be pessimistic. My friends are calling me like, you've been like very pessimistic lately. I'm not. I'm really not. I'm hopeful that our future is the first time is in our hands. Assad regime is not there anymore, so it's on us now. I'm hopeful, but if if I want to think about dark scenarios, I would say I'm afraid of internal clashes within the military groups that are now that have taken control. I'm afraid of defections. I'm afraid of a Houthi kind of Haftar scenario, Libyan scenario, Yemeni scenario. We haven't seen any indicators yet, but again, we should take the whole region. We should take also the lessons learned from different experiences, and these experiences frighten me. So I'm afraid of internal clashes, defections. I'm afraid of the re-emergence of some extremist groups in the Syrian deserts, because we still have pockets of ISIS there, which kind of always could benefit from instability. I'm afraid of some sectarian rhetorics that might increase hate speech and all of that. We haven't seen that yet. That's why we need, in order. But when we drag this longer, we might start seeing this. So that's why we need to start the political process immediately, in order to overcome some of these possible negative, perhaps also catastrophic outcomes if this never happened.
I'm sorry to take you out of your optimistic bubble of celebration. Let's focus on that hope that you talked about earlier on. Mazen Gharibah, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you.